There we are.
Awesome.
All right. Live while Jonathan eats.
I mean, a bison epic bar.
There you go. Man, you did that last week too.
Which these are okay, but if you've ever had their venison is so much better. So with that said, I'm ready to go.
All right.
3, 2, and 1. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by The Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
Sean, today we're going to be talking about kind of a continuation of killer sales ads, and also we'll be discussing the 8 components of an irresistible direct response offer.
There you go. All right.
Irresistible.
Irresistible. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. If you use the 8 components.
That's right. If you leave one out, it will be completely resistible.
Yep. That's how it goes. All or nothing. But we'll be finishing up first, the PDF from Clayton Makepeace that we started a couple episodes ago.
Yes.
And we'll be picking up with the 75 most powerful words and phrases in the English language and how to put them to work for you. So
that's a good follow-up to our last episode, right?
Yeah, it really is, because exactly what to say. That was a great interview with Mr. Phil M. Jones. So if you haven't heard that one, go back and listen to that one.
Yes.
So before we get into our beers, I wanted to share, I sent you a text earlier today, and I thought this was a great example of kind of a blue ocean idea for a product.
Okay.
And I wanted to share that with you. I don't know if you saw the text or not.
Yes.
So my daughter does dog sitting, right? And she went to work today, and on the counter there's a note that said "Treat for Diesel," which is our dog. And on top of this note was from Busch. It was a can of dog brew by Busch, as in Anheuser-Busch, as far as I can tell.
What's that? Pork bone. What does it say at the top? Pork bone.
Pork bone broth.
Okay.
So
that's literally a dog's beer.
Yeah. So it says, is this actually, so it came, and it also came with like FAQ about the stuff, right? So, but I was like, beer for dogs, like that's blue ocean right there, right? You can start a craft brewery, or you could just start a dog craft brewery. Like that's blue ocean thinking. If you've not read the book Blue Ocean, it's instead of competing with everybody else in a red ocean, you go out and you start your own blue ocean product. But so the FAQs, I just thought it was funny. It's good marketing too. Is this actually a beer for dogs? Yes. Can humans drink it? Sure, but it's made for a dog's palate. Yeah, it's made for a dog's palate. You may find it bland, and yes, we've tried it. Is it alcoholic? Does it contain carbonation? No, it is not alcoholic and does not contain hops or carbonation.
It's not good for your puppy.
Yeah, so it's fine for the dog. The beer, this version of the beer. So you just basically pour it in their bowl, or you can pour it over their food. Either one, to give them a little bit of a dog brew treat. So I thought that was kind of a cool idea. Especially
where would you find this? At the grocery store? Would you find this at
I don't know, because it says scan to shop, and I have not scanned to shop yet. So I don't know. I could probably do that real quick and then see where it takes me.
Available at these fine local establishments.
Shopbeergear.com.
Okay.
Is where this one. Yeah. Shopbeergear.com. That's hard to say. So I'll accept the cookies. Yeah. You have to be 21 and older. So, we'll just go with, January 1st. When was I born? We'll go with I don't know. Oh, missed it. I accidentally closed it. So anyway, I'll put a note. I'll send a note where you can get it, but shopbeergear.com is apparently one of the places. But back to human beer.
So apparently this place carries real beer. I mean, you have to be 21 to enter. So
yeah. It's got some kind of alcohol in it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, if you're a big craft beer drinker and you take your dog to like a beer garden, like a lot of people do,
Sure.
you could take along a little 6-pack of this for your pup, and they don't get left
I
out.
like it.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool idea.
So when you first sent me that text today, I literally thought that was an actual beer.
Yeah.
It was I didn't know this was for the dog.
It's for the dog. Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, there's a new market. That's a
totally
like you
new
said, blue ocean strategy. Why compete when you can just create new markets?
Yeah, and it's people love their dogs. Exactly. And the dog will drink the same thing over and over for 30 years. So yeah, so you don't need as many flavors. All right. So let's get back to people beer.
Okay.
So I've got one from our sponsor, the Original Craft Beer Club.
Cue up.
That was the
producer. Logo. Let's go. Come on. You guys back there. You're sleeping. There we go.
It's man, good help is hard to find. Good help is hard to find. Even in a pandemic. We'll just call it the virtual lag. All right. So this is also from River House Brewing Company. So I'll let you talk about the original craft beer club first.
Yes.
And then I'll jump in.
So this segment of our episode is brought to you by our friends over at the Original Craft Beer Club. Outstanding craft beers from the finest independent microbreweries in the US of A. One of the best ways to sample these unique beers is by letting the guys over at the Original Craft Beer Club do all the legwork and tasting to bring you the best beer discoveries in the country. Why be disappointed by a beer that you're not sure about, right? Not to mention that, like you said, during the pandemic, if you're in an area, if you live in part of the country where you're completely, you don't know. I mean, this second wave, people are talking about another lockdown. I hope that doesn't happen. But if you can't go out to your local establishment or your grocery store, or you don't want to deal with the shame of people looking at you for not wearing a mask or vice versa, then you might just want to have beers brought to you, right? And so that's where you go to the Original Craft Beer Club. You can find out more by visiting them over at persuasionbythepint.com/craft beer. Sean, you got one.
I do. And this one is just like the last episode is from River Horse Brewing Company. So I talked a little bit about these guys, but they were founded in 1995. So they're kind of ahead of the craft beer club renaissance. And kind of changed ownership in 2007 and then moved facilities in 2013. And we talked a little bit about them, like what River Horse is, but basically the hippo is the River Horse. So there's a picture of the old hippo.
The hippo again. Yes.
Yeah. So that's their mascot. And this is a River Horse chocolate porter. How about that?
Oh, that looks really good.
Yeah. So wait till you hear this description. I've never heard this description on a chocolate porter or chocolate anything, right? You'll know it when you hear it. All right. So it's 6.5% ABV American porter, a brown porter brewed with dark roasted malts, Madagascar vanilla beans, and a pound of chocolate per barrel.
Wow. A
pound of chocolate per barrel. That is great. Like really descriptive to me. Yeah. This is what Willie drinks after 5. The River Horse Chocolate Porter is a decadent brew with notes of vanilla, coffee, almond, and chocolate on the nose. Flavors of nutty chocolate, vanilla coffee, and mildly sweet malts make this flavorful, man, that's hard to say, and enjoyable offering. Cheers. So I'm going to open mine with my 50 cal Man Crate bullet bottle opener.
I love that opener.
I know, right? I love having it on my desk. Makes me feel powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it won't really do much because there's no gunpowder in it. But oh well.
It's just intimidating looking.
I could stab somebody with it if I had to. Hand-to-hand combat. Bayonets fixed. All right. So what do you have over there in Knoxville?
So I have a let's pull this up here. It is a Paulaner. Southern version is the Paulaner.
Is that like a Paulaner. Sounds like a golfer at the Masters. It is Masters weekend. So
it is.
Which is weird because it's November.
Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Did you know? So ESPN Game Day is going to be at the Masters tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, because half the football games have been canceled for tomorrow, so it makes sense to be at the Masters.
We'll actually get to enjoy it because they won't even have to keep up with the games.
That's right.
All right.
So I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but this is a Marzen. It is a amber style beer that was developed over 200 years ago to celebrate the original Oktoberfest. The Marzen name comes from March beer because it was originally brewed in March to be a peak flavor for the Oktoberfest celebration. So they start early, so it's ready for Oktoberfest. And today, this style is available year-round in the U.S. due to popular demand. I'll tell you, it's only 5.8% ABV. Ingredients: malted barley hops, Hercules hops, blah blah blah, Pilsner malt, blah blah blah,
yada yada yada,
yada yada yada. All right, let's try it. Forget it. Forget all that stuff. Right. Let's see what it looks like. I'm not sure. I was a little skittish on this one because it was your one of these Marzen beers. It's got a nice color though. It's got a nice amber.
Yeah, there you
color.
go. It's nice.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Cue up beer. There we go.
Wow.
Ooh, man.
That is def.
that is def. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that was quite the aftertaste there for you. Like a delayed aftertaste. So this, like, you can taste the chocolate in this. Like, this has, like, as soon as you put it up to your nose, you can smell the chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
And then definitely taste the chocolate. But it's not like an imperial porter, imperial stout or anything where it's super sweet.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's like a good, like, after dinner beer. You probably have one. You wouldn't have two or three of them. It's a little too rich for that. But yeah, it's good. It reminds me, even though it didn't have the peanut butter, it reminds me of like a peanut butter chocolate stout or peanut butter stout or something like that, or porter. I guess it's a porter, which we know from the last episode you can't actually tell apart. So,
sure.
So yeah, this is good. I think it's one of those ones that will continue to get better as it airs, just like the last one did. I forgot to mention that on the last show, but that just kept getting better. So yeah, I like it. It's not as roasty as the stout that I had on the last episode, but it's really good. Definitely more chocolate, a little less coffee.
Sure.
So good. So I'd give this a solid 4.
Solid 4. Okay.
Yeah, I like it. Back in the wheelhouse of the dark beers.
This one is it's a little bitter. So I don't know. I'm having a hard time because the last one was, the contrast between the cake therapy that I had on the last one, which is a little heavier, but this one's lighter, but it's a little, I don't know. There's just a little, it's got a bitter taste.
Yeah.
You're
almost done with it already though.
Yeah.
Can't be too bitter.
I had to take about 4 swigs to see. I'm going to give this one I'm going to give this one a 2. I'm going to have to give it like a 2.6. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. And it's just not a big fan of this.
Not a Marzen fan. Okay.
Nope, not a Marzen fan.
At least not this one. Hey, that happens.
And it's a shame because this stuff's been brewing for they've been around for 400 years, I guess.
Yeah.
So, well.
All right. So Marzen beer made in March. Don't drink it till October. It's almost like,
that's right.
It's kind of like making babies. Yeah. Make it in March, birth it in December.
That's right.
So, all right. So let's jump into the how to write killer ads and compelling sales copy. And we're on rule. These were rules, but Clayton said in this document, he's like, I don't really like rules, so these are kind of not rules. Rules.
The unrules. Ooh,
The
so we're
unrules,
getting into the good part.
Yeah. We dropped off at kind of the, a little bit more. There's all good stuff we covered 2 episodes ago, but this is now we're at rule number 11, and it's the 75 most powerful words and phrases in the English language. We're not going to go through all 75. We'll just cherry pick a few. But these are words that are like, kind of visceral. They kind of get your attention. A lot of them you've heard. But then we'll talk about some, try to mention a couple that people have not used as much. So which one
question?
Yeah. Well, which one would you question? I'm curious.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going through the list, and it goes from A to Z. So I'm thinking, you got amazing, astonishing, astounding, announcing, appalling, at last, all I can see. Bargain, bonus, breakthrough, charter. Charter
I would just like a charter membership.
Yeah, I know, but it's
first in line.
First in line, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I think if it's the right type of offer, I definitely like using charter.
Sure, you could. I could see there's ways you could certainly use that. Let's see. Easy, those are good. Effortless, I like. Exclusive, fearless, first time ever, all good. Discount, I don't know. Again, another word that can have a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Depending on how you use it. Discount makes me think. I don't like using discount a lot of times because it cheapens. You've got that cheapening effect. And it really depends on the product that you're marketing. So.
Yeah, and some of these you can combine, right? So you could do an exclusive discount.
Right.
And it sounds better than just a discount, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's partly how you use these, combining some of these, and these aren't all like headline words. They're headlines, subheads, and even throughout the copy. So one that stands out is for like throughout a copy would be inevitable.
Oh yeah.
Like to sprinkle that in if you're talking about an event that's coming up or something like that, or a pain that you're moving towards. You could say it's inevitable if you don't fix this problem, blah, 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 something like that, right? So I think inevitable is a good, strong word that you don't hear a lot. Usually you want to go with a simpler word, but that's even though it's a bigger word, it has a lot of power.
Yep.
So that's one I liked. One I questioned at first. It's a phrase. It's here. I was like, no, but then I remember also there's a phrase, and it's not on this list, but it's true. And I read that somebody did it. Somebody did a test that if you put that at the top of your like a Facebook ad, you do it's true ... and then you put the ad, like it just automatically gets higher click through, higher believability, all that kind of stuff. Just in a head-to-head test, nothing else changed. And I could see something similar with it's here, especially if you've been building up to something, or it's Black Friday, or great for promotion type stuff.
I think when we had Ben on, I think we talked about that in Facebook ads.
Yeah,
it's true. That's a great way to start any Facebook ad. It really does. It captures attention. Here's one that I really like. In my industry that I've used a number of times, nothing to lose, because it takes away, if you're using that, I think that's a powerful way to take, because people are motivated obviously by, they want to maintain what they have over gaining something typically. So they're trying not lose. So they have a fear of loss.
Right.
And they're more averse to losing something than they are then they have a desire to gain something new. So when you use that phrase and you really, depending on how you use it, nothing to lose, I find is very effective, especially in my industry where you're talking, risk reward and what you have, to evaluate and trial and determine the cost benefit. And then, if somebody's on the edge of thinking, what's this going to cost me? Nothing to lose, really kind of takes that away. So if you use that, if you phrase that word or that phrase in the right way, you can take away all of their fears that they have about kind of taking a risk or stepping out and trying something new.
Yep. Yeah, a couple others on this list: new, now, not, and like those sound like they're overused.
Yep.
But that's the thing about this list is these are words that just keep on working.
Yeah, exactly.
New keeps on working. Throwing in the word now, like now, comma, blah 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 blah. Just it's kind of one of those subconscious things, one of those NLP type words that just get people. They work whether you want them to work or not, whether you believe they work or not. They continue to work.
Sure.
Another one is painless.
I
Falls
like
in that category.
one.
Painless. And then one that I don't hear as much is rush. I don't hear as much. And then this one, I just love the way it sounds. Is scandalous.
Yeah, I do too.
Like it's got the hard C in it, and it's just it's a very strong word that when you hear it, you know exactly what it means. So when you apply that to maybe an event in an industry or things like that, and you have to remember, Clayton wrote most of his stuff in either the financial or health spaces.
Yeah,
and there was kind of a lot of shock and awe and that kind of stuff in those niches. So you could talk about this, the scandalous, Democrats or the scandalous Republicans or the scandalous, DC Beltway boys or whatever, right? You could talk about all those types of things. You could talk about the scandalous, drug, big pharma, and the scandalous types of products they're putting out and all these types of things. So scandalous is a great word if you can work it in. Shocking, another one that just
builds intrigue. Yep.
Yeah, and again, these are not things you'd want to put all of these in one package or all of these in one letter even, but used, in the right place at the right time, they definitely add some weight and some interest to the copy.
Yeah. Truth about. That's always a good one.
Yeah. The truth about, whatever. Usually, that works really good with like the truth about common enemy, right? Put the common enemy here. And then you start out with a truth that they already believe. And then you're starting the letter with something they already believe to be true. And now because you're on their side, you think the same way they do, you can kind of start to say other things that they may or may not believe, but you've already built rapport with them because you've said the truth about this. And you can also take, just a big subject, the truth about debt.
Yeah.
The truth about weight loss. Like everybody wants to know the truth. Nobody wants to be lied to.
Right.
And that's why that continues to work. And of course, the all-time award winner, you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Just the word you. We were actually doing some copy reviews today, company I'm working with, doing some consulting for, and we were going through things, and a lot of the writers were coming kind of with general stuff, and we had to keep tweaking it down to remind them you got to write to the reader as often as possible. Now, in Facebook land, you can't necessarily do that, but in emails, you definitely can, and sales letters, you can, all that kind of stuff. So use the word you when you can get away with it, for sure.
Yep. I like how he talks about in this, because especially in this day, and he wrote this was kind of in the early days of probably Facebook, but you think about compliance in terms of Facebook ads today. So he uses that example down below of these investments are guaranteed to soar when interest rates rise. So this could be a potential problem if you were using this in a Facebook ad today, right? You can't guarantee anything. A weaker version of that would be these investments could possibly have the potential to soar. That's really weak, a weak version of saying, trying to say the same thing. But I like that his his compromise version, these investments have the power to soar, when interest rates rise. So
Right. So having gone through this process, right? So the copywriter, we always train copywriters. I'm like, hey, write your best case, and then when the legal team comes back and says this is not compliant, they'll come
Sure.
back. The compliance version that he's talking about there is what they would probably write back, and that's why it's so weaselly and sounds so weak.
Right.
Because they're putting all these modifiers, these what I can't remember who it was, but one of the copywriters would call those weasel words.
Yep.
Could possibly.
That's just so weaselly. Yeah.
Yeah. Could possibly have the potential. Like that's all, that's all lawyer talk right there.
Right.
So what you have to do is you have to learn how to split the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I know going through the legal process with different, companies, I was told once about, if you're ever working with an attorney, you never ask the attorney, can you say something? You ask them, how would you say this?
Right.
Because if you ask them, can you, they're just going to say no.
No, exactly.
Or if, would you say this? They'll be like, no. But if you say, how would you say this? Then they have to give you an answer. Mm-hmm. So that tip right there is worth gold if you're ever working. And that's true for like any advice you're trying to get from an attorney, because they're always going to take the safest, route that's least litigated. So you need to ask them, like, how would you do this? How would you say this? How could we make this happen? And then they'll give you their advice, but they're not going to volunteer it because that's just the way they've been trained. All right. So which non-rule do you want to cover next?
We could go for 12. I'm not. Do you want to spend any time on 12 or?
Yeah. So basically what this is, it's the name of it is Squint. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that if you kind of squint when you look at the screen or a piece of paper, if it looks like one giant block of text, you need to put some white space in.
Right.
That's basically it. And a lot of people who follow us, they know, varied sentences, put in, bullet list, do some bolds here and there, some italics here and there. Not over the top, but enough that it kind of lets you know that there's different sections to this copy that are worth paying attention to.
Sure.
Otherwise, it does, we've all had the experience where we open up a text or an email and it's just one solid block of text and we're like, oh, I cannot read that right now. So you're looking for how can I get people to at least start scanning it? And then if something catches their attention, they'll start reading around it and read the whole thing.
Yep. Rule 13, go for precision and power. Mm-hmm. A lot of experts say you should use short words, right, as if the prospect is an 8th grader. We've talked about this a lot. Some anal retentive rule addicts have even gone so far as to instruct students to add up all the letters in each paragraph and divide by the number of words and make sure the average word is no more than 5 letters long. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think the rule of thumb is to write like you talk to people,
Yeah. I mean, I've used FK score, which obviously is a mathematical formula, but it doesn't get so, worried about the length of a word. It's more about readability and clarity is really what FK score is about. But like the list we just read a little bit ago, like sometimes a bigger, longer word, even a 2 or 3 syllable word, 3 syllable word is fine. Inconceivable. Like that's,
right.
That's a people know what that means. Like you don't want to pick a word that most of the public doesn't know. But he talks about, and he quotes William Zinsser in one of my favorite books that I recommend to new writers is On Writing Well. Mm-hmm. And it says, beware then of the long word that is no better than the short word, numerous and many, right? So you'd pick many in that case. Facilitate and ease. Well, ease might be better. Individual or man or woman, right? So I'd pick, man or woman unless you're in a gender neutral type, place that you're writing. Remainder versus rest. You pick rest. Initial versus first, you pick first. Implement versus do, pick do. But sometimes a longer word, even an entire phrase, does convey more meaning, right? So we were talking on our last show with Phil, and he gave us a little exercise. He was like, "Hey, give me, let's talk about salespeople." And salespeople in general, it's shorter than put an adjective in front of it. But we did this exercise. We're like, well, a typical salesperson versus a professional salesperson,
Right.
totally changed how we viewed the word salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes having extra words and modifier words makes a huge difference, and it's actually better than trying to cut it down,
right?
To just salesperson or sales guy or whatever. So yeah, it's it goes back to using a little bit of common sense, and like you said, just write like you talk. Like, how would you say this if you were trying to describe it to a friend?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's another good rule. I like this. Look for shortcuts to keep the momentum going in your copy.
Yep.
He says, make liberal use of contractions. After all, it's how people talk. In fact, the only time I write does not instead of doesn't, and I do that all the time. I don't, I use doesn't or, isn't instead of is not, is when the not is crucial to the meaning. And if it's really crucial, I'll add emphasis to it with an underline, italicize it, capitalize it, and in some cases, all of the above. So, short rule of thumb there is, again, write like you talk.
Yep.
Sean, when I'm talking to you, I typically do not say does not or is not. I'm usually saying doesn't or isn't, so
absolutely.
And that's typically how most people will talk, in a conversation. So
yeah, and that's a thing that I have to edit when I see when I edit other writers all the time.
Yeah.
Is editing contractions into their writing, because in high school and college, you were taught not to use contractions.
Yep.
But the fact is, that's how most of us talk. And if you run across somebody who doesn't use contractions, it just sounds weird. They sound really like,
stuffy, a little stuffy.
Yes. So yeah, you don't want to sound stuffy in your writing. Plus, it's just harder for the brain, because most people, when they read out loud in their head.
Sure.
Right. So now you're having them slow down when you actually want them to keep the same pace. And that's one thing I think is really hard for people who write or trying to write to really get, is that there's a rhythm to writing. It's not just the words, it's the way the words flow.
Sure.
And when you're reading something that's written really well, because you read it fast. Yeah. Like you go through 2 or 3 pages, you're like, wow, I just read 6 pages. I didn't realize I was, past page 1 hardly. And that's the kind of feel that it wants. And that's, I think some of that is instinctual, and I think some of it is learned. I feel like I've always had kind of that ability in writing back in high school, and when we did little essays and writing prompts, it seems like I was able to write writing that read fast.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure how much of it's learned and how much of it is picked up in speech, depending on your household. I don't know where it comes from exactly, but the best way to discover that is if you write something, give it to somebody else to read out loud, and then listen for where they stumble. And that's a good example. That'll tell you a lot about your writing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else on these that you want to?
No, not so much on these, unless you got some.
No, I mean, I think it's a good. So again, the name of the PDF, and you can find it online, is "How to Write Killer Ads and Compelling Sales Copy" by Clayton Makepeace. There are some different places online where you can find the PDF if you do a Google search for that. So you got a second book that you wanted to cover. Separate, I guess, PDF. And
this is a follow-up report to that. This is the 8 components of an irresistible direct response offer. So you weren't able to find this, but so I'll just go through and you can kind of follow up. So the anatomy of a power pack direct response offer starts with number 1. It says just about every offer you see is a compromised or is comprised. I'm sorry, comprised of 8 major components. Rationale. Great offers begin with a clear, credible explanation of why you're about to give away the farm. Maybe it's a special introductory offer. You're so sure that once the prospect experiences the benefits of your product, or experiences the benefit your product provides, he'll be a customer for life. So you've got to give the rationale in terms of, in terms of the offer. That's the number one. It's, I guess, at the top.
Okay.
Whatever your rationale for amazing, astonishing, truly spectacular offer you're about to make, put it up in the lights. So, next, discount. Several things. Again, there's that word, discount. Several things to think about here. First, it's important to establish your regular price and make it seem like a really good value. To make your regular price believable, specifics are crucial. Tell your prospect when your product has been offered or sold for full price, or even how many thousands of folks have paid the full price for that product. Then demonstrate why, even at full price, your product is a screaming deal. Show how your product will save them or even make them many times your regular price. I do this a lot when, marketing or doing sales presentations or marketing to companies, like, showing them the regular price, and even at that regular price compared to maybe something they're buying of at a cheaper price, how that contrast and how that looks, and the opportunities it affords them within the costing, and just kind of presenting it that way. But let's see, purchase options.
I found I found it, by the way. I found the PDF. So,
okay,
cool.
Giving them purchase options is crucial. So you notice this, like in online sales copy today, if you don't give people options for buying,
yes.
And you're seeing this more and more. I mean, I'm seeing it from everything nowadays. You go to a site to buy, even a shirt. They'll give you companies will give you buying options for a shirt. Like you can make payments on a shirt. It's like incredible.
Yeah. I'm seeing it on like protein powder.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, oh, you could do this for, $8.50 a month. I'm like, it's a month's supply. Like eventually that's going to catch up with me. Right.
Right.
I'll be back to the normal price because it got 4 months, $8 payments coming due.
Right.
But the idea is it lowers the barrier to entry. People are skeptical, or whatever. They're between paychecks, whatever it might be. It gives people a chance to, the company that I think did a really good job with this, and kind of made the payments really successful is all the home shopping networks, right? The QVCs, HSNs, they all have like the 5-pay plan.
Mm-hmm.
And even before that, maybe not before that, but remember the old Finger Hut magazines?
Oh yeah.
The catalogs that came to your home and they had all the junk in them, and you could buy a vacuum cleaner for, 12 payments of, $15 instead of having to pay the whole thing up front.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it definitely works for especially if your niche is on a budget, right?
Yeah. And maybe people want to spread out, even if they can afford it. Maybe people want to spread out the payments just because, right. Like especially if there's no interest or anything like that, they're like, well, shoot, I'll just spread those payments out anyway,
Yeah.
It's like, with Apple this week, I bought a new phone and an iPad. It's like cost me like $2,700. Like when all is said and done, it's like a lot of money. That you can drop all at one time, but then they give you these interest-free payment options that you can spread it out. I'm like, why wouldn't you kind of break that down? Because you can kind of, if there's no interest involved whatsoever, there's an incentive to that. You can spread that out. You can take from a business standpoint, you can take the, you can use
full value,
the full value of buying it this year. Cause you you ordered it, And so you can go ahead and take the deduction for this year and then spread that payment out for next year. So
Yep.
Sometimes that makes sense for businesses to do stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think the sweet spot, and he kind of talks about this in here, is like 3 to 5 payments. Unless you start getting really, pricier, then you might want to do 12 months, same as cash, or 12 installments. Obviously, when you get really expensive, like into cars and things like that, then you're going to the 60 months, no interest, that kind of stuff. But I mean, I've done that on cars, right? It's like,
oh, absolutely.
It's like, man, you're going to give me free interest. Yeah. And it probably did help me pull the trigger, on that car, because I'm like, well, it doesn't really cost me anything extra, so other than depreciation, all that stuff. But,
sure.
I don't care about that stuff. So just wanted the new car.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Which is kind of the fourth thing he talks about here is payment terms. It's kind of the same thing. Purchase options and payment terms are kind of similar. What do you think the difference there is? Purchase options, I guess, is the way you can pay, and I guess payment terms is how those things are.
Right, how they extend out. Purchase options means what you can use. I guess you can use, whether you use PayPal, whether you use Venmo or whatever your preferred option. I find it, just on a side note, you're talking about cars. I find it interesting, like, just the whole process of how you can order a Tesla today. Yeah. Like, you go to their website and literally there's a video. It shows a guy just within a few clicks ordering his Tesla.
Yeah. It's crazy. Well, it's like Carvana now too, right? It's like you buy the whole thing online, and you either get a token and you get it out of one of their vending machines,
right?
Or they deliver it to your house.
Exactly.
That's hard for me to wrap my head around, but obviously and that's a great example of, like, you can't write to your, a lot of times you want to write to yourself as your avatar if you really know it. But at the same time, if I wrote just to me, I would have never started Carvana as a company. Like, I just don't understand it. I want to test drive it.
Sure.
I want to sit in it. I want to feel how the seats feel, all that kind of stuff. But apparently there's a lot of people out there that they're like, nah, just ship it to me. I'm good.
Yeah. And I think it's like younger people, like they don't want the hassle of going out there. They just want everything brought to them. So
because of the sleazy salespeople that we talked about in the last episode.
It's
a big part of that.
Huh? Yeah.
Like, they don't want to talk face to face to people. I mean, that's right. That is a big part of it. And go through the 3-hour, sales process and all that stuff when you can just do it from the comfort of your home. So, and they do have an out for that, right? It's like, you get I think you get so many days to try the car if you don't like it. And they know hardly anybody's going to return a car. Like, once you get it, you're kind of you'll be fine with it.
Absolutely.
So the fifth thing he talks about in this is premiums. And this is really, a lot of people talk about this. I don't think most people do a very good job of it. And the rule of thumb that I've seen for premiums is that, one, they need to be very similar to what you're already selling. They need to be very congruent. And two is they should be able to stand on their own. Like, people would pay for them on their own.
Yeah.
Too many times I see people throw in stuff that didn't sell or that's not very interesting, but they're just trying to pump up the value. So they just throw any old thing in. Like, if it won't sell by itself, then it's not going to work as a bonus either.
Sure.
It's just not.
I think one person that comes to mind, we've had Bob Bly on our show in the past.
Yep.
I think he does a really good job of this, because if you've ever bought, like, if you go to, his website is over at Bly.com. So if you buy any of, like, his information, which I bought a ton of his, like, PDFs and information products, but he always gives a premium, like, bonus, like, if you buy something.
Yeah.
And it's just not garbage too. I mean, it's typically like an ebook that's, like, got a lot of information in there. And, he just, like, he throws that in as a bonus, and you immediately get access to it. So, and I know a lot of guys do that, but I feel like he just does that really well, because it's not like just like some like 2-page or 3-page report that he throws in on top of like what you're getting. It's like really like another ebook that's got a lot of value to it. So, I mean, I think that's the important thing, is make sure that what you're offering, whatever your premium product or whatever you're throwing in, is like major, it's got a lot of value. It's just not something that you created that's like really cheap and easy to get out there.
Yeah, and it needs to be complimentary too. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
sometimes
exactly.
people are throwing in stuff that
Mhm.
doesn't really make sense because they've got it on their
Yeah.
hard drive or something, right? Companies that do this really well is Beachbody, right? You
Mhm.
buy a fitness program, well,
Yep.
you probably need a diet, you probably need supplements.
Absolutely.
They
Yep.
do a good job of that, and then they have the membership now where you can get all their courses, as part
Mhm.
of the membership. Those are all
Sure.
congruent.
Right.
I'm trying to think right now of something an example that would not be congruent that I've seen. I can't think of anything right now, but I've definitely seen them in the past where, somebody's selling maybe a copywriting course, and then they throw in like 101 businesses you can start from home. Like, well, I thought copywriting was the thing, and now
Yeah.
it's
Right.
got like,
Right. Yeah.
now I've got these
Exactly.
100 other things just because it sounded cool, right?
Yeah.
Um, hey, if this doesn't work, try
Right.
all these things.
Yeah.
That's not the angle you want to go with.
No. And the likelihood that you're going to be, or you're going to, be interested in that when you're buying something, you're buying a copywriting course. The whole reason you're buying a copywriting course is to be a copywriter, not learn all these other businesses or
Right. You don't want to confuse people and all that, right? You want to
Yeah.
you want to keep that confidence all the way through the
Mhm.
bonuses. Like, this is complementary to what you're learning.
Right.
Like, for instance, let's just stick with the copywriting example. If I'm selling a copywriting course, then 13 emails you can write to win new business as a copywriter. That's a
Absolutely.
great bonus, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like,
Mhm.
oh, cool, a template. I don't even have to think about it. I'm going to need
Sure.
new clients.
Right.
I would pay for that anyway. And I think that's really the standard.
Mhm.
Like, if you made it an upsell, would people buy it?
Mhm.
Or if it was a standalone product, would people buy it? If
Yeah.
not, it's not good enough for a bonus.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Especially a done for you type bonus like that.
Those are great. Yeah.
Yeah, those
Templates
always
are great bonuses. Anything done for you is a great bonus. Done for you is really better as an upsell. I
Mhm.
think templates are great for bonuses. People
Yep.
love templates. They're like, yeah, I want to learn this, but like we talked about with Phil on the last show, like, they're not buying the course, they're buying the result the course gives them.
Absolutely.
So if you can get them to that result faster with templates or something else, software, whatever else, then
Sure.
that can push them over the edge. And sometimes they'll buy just for the templates, not for the actual course, because they think that's a shortcut and gets them to the result faster.
Right.
All right. So number 6 on this list of 8, what was it called? 8 components of an irresistible direct response offer. So number 6 is
a guarantee.
Guarantee. Got to have a guarantee. Well,
Guarantee.
so that's not true. You don't have to have a guarantee. There is a place and time, ask Ben Settle, like, he doesn't guarantee anything, right? At least no money back guarantees, right? You can
Right.
make other guarantees. It doesn't have to be a money back guarantee, but that is the most traditional. That is, but talk about the performance, not just like the money back, right? So
Mhm.
I've seen guarantees where, we guarantee that if you do the work, you could do like a do the work guarantee. Like, we guarantee if you do the work, you'll get this result.
Yeah.
And then you can throw in or your money back. But
Mhm.
so the guarantee doesn't have to be money back. It can just be that if
Sure.
you apply yourself, if you follow the instructions, if you do the step by step, do the worksheets, then you'll get this result.
Right.
But
I think if you're going to do a money back guarantee, I think probably the best rule of thumb is to make it, I know this goes against conventional wisdom, but like, don't go, like he says, don't be like a 60-day or a 30-day, because people are going to like set their clocks, or the calendars. But if you give them enough space to like be comfortable, like, I know, like, I think, again, going back to Bob Bly or other copywriters out there that they use, like a 1 year type guarantee. Well, what that does is it gives the person that buys it enough time to kind of relax and not worry about having to, about like if they've not satisfied, they've got plenty of time. So what happens? I mean, the deal. People tend to forget about stuff like that.
Yeah. And,
So,
and that shouldn't be your goal. You're like, oh, well, I hope
right,
they forget, right? You still want
right.
them to get the result, right?
Sure.
But I agree. Like if it's 30 days, they feel a lot of pressure and they'll
Yeah.
circle that on their calendar and they're like, oh crap. All right. I
And they
need to,
don't get the benefit of it. I mean, they
yeah.
don't get the benefit. Like this gives you time that they can actually spend time going through. Like you said, it's not you don't have to use it in a manipulative way, but
Yeah.
it gives them time. They don't feel like they're rushed.
Yeah. And you can give them an email series that follows up and says,
Yeah.
here's what you do week 1. Here's what you do week 2. And it doesn't have to, and it could be a 52-week calendar.
Right.
Or give them an option. You could say,
Right.
look, here's your 30-day success calendar. Here's your 90-day success calendar. Here's your 1-year success calendar, depending on how quickly or slowly you need to go through this. And no matter what, you're covered by our 365-day guarantee.
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay. So there is a fast path for those who want to do it fast. There's kind of a medium path, and then there's a long-term path, right?
Right.
You see this with like night schools and, colleges that offer degree completion programs, right? They're like at your leisure, man. Like take your time. You go through the courses as you need to. It's not, because we know you're busy and those kind of things. And that works because people know that they're going to be busy and they're going to get distracted. So if you let them know it's okay to be that way, and we'll still guarantee it,
Right.
It gives them a little bit more comfort. You also don't sound as desperate, right?
Right. Exactly.
It's like, oh my God, I better put a short guarantee so that they can't charge back.
Yep.
And then, you do have to keep in mind, like if you're using a payment processor, some of those don't like especially if you get past a year, like you do a lifetime guarantee, payment processors hate that stuff. So
sure.
kind of have to be careful about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Jay Abraham, I think, talked about the longer the guarantee, the lower the refund rate.
Yep.
Yeah, he talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
All right, so number 7.
Urgency premiums.
Yeah, so this is like the premium, but at an extra level, right? So this is the bonus offer. And people that actually do this and stick to it, it works really well, I think. Right. Where let's say you're going to say that, the new class starts, the new program that we're running starts, December 1st or January 1st, and you're doing kind of an early bird launch. Like, if you enroll before, let's say it starts January 1st, if you enroll before December 15th, you'll get these extra bonuses. But after December 15th, those bonuses are gone. You only get the regular bonuses. So it's kind of an extra level of bonuses that create urgency, and that's why they're called urgency premiums. You want to get people who are kind of looking at it to not wait, and because I both know, and if you've done any launches, you know that most of the sales happen like in the last 24 hours. Like I think the statistic is around half of all sales happen the last 24 hours, no matter how long your buildup is. At least half, if not 2/3.
Sure.
So anytime you can pull some of that forward to get people to make that decision earlier, the better. You'll probably still end up with half to 2/3 decide the hour before the cart closes, because that's just the way humans are. We like to procrastinate as long as possible.
Yep.
All right, and then number 8 is fulfillment considerations. So this is all about not having to wait. Yeah, I want it now. Like how can I get it quick, right? How can I get my Big Mac? I don't want to have to get out of the car for my Big Mac. Can I just drive around and get it? Yes, you can. The exception to that would be Chick-fil-A, where if you're in the drive-thru, it's going to take twice as long. I went by Chick-fil-A the other night, and I was like, this is unreal. Like, I'm driving down the main road, and you can see the Chick-fil-A. It's got a double drive-through wrapped around the building like twice. Like it looks like LA traffic around the Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
Like that is just, you know,
Yeah,
there's
and
all
it still
kinds of like,
takes less time than going into a McDonald's to order.
yeah.
By the time you get through there.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy,
You're
but
you can
but you
still I
could
mean,
just
you get in that line and you're gone you're through there in no time.
yeah.
So,
But it's still faster to park and go in that case. But
yeah,
nobody
yeah.
wants to do that, right? They want
Right,
convenience. So
right.
because you can do other stuff while you're sitting in the car. Plus, you don't want to have to get the kids out and all that
Mhm.
stuff. So think about like what fulfillment considerations are there.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you don't want somebody hitting their credit card and then nothing shows up like
Right,
virtually in person or anything for 4 to 6 weeks. Like people
right.
get really antsy like that, and just like the excitement's gone. So you're not going to get the testimonials. You're not going to get a lot of the other stuff because you've just completely lost.
Sure.
Um, you lost
Yeah.
that momentum from the sale.
Yeah, and absolutely. And keep in mind that people, especially if they're taking if you're selling a physical product, people will pay more to get it, if it's next day or within
Yeah, I
2
mean,
days. They're
yeah,
more than
Amazon
happy to
Prime.
pay the extra. Yeah.
That's why people pay $79 a year for Amazon Prime or whatever it is now, or Costco, the executive membership. So you get in 2 hours before everybody else. All those things are kind of a type of fulfillment, to be able to get access. And that's, people love that. So I want to add one thing to this list that's not on this list, if I can. And Dan Kennedy does this better than anybody else in the business. And that is walking people through the sales process. And this is kind of the offer and the close section, really the close, I guess. Dan Kennedy talks about this where it's like, if you're writing a letter, online sales, like show them what the next page, the checkout page looks like.
Sure.
Show them the thank you letter they're going to get when they like walk them through all the steps before they take the steps. And if you can do screenshots of the actual page and what the box is going to look like when it shows up on their porch, like all those things, it gives people a sense of like calm and safety, and they know what to expect, right? Because the biggest thing is like people hate this fear of uncertainty. They don't know exactly how things are going to happen. So if you can show the whole process, the guy in the warehouse packing the thing up, here's the boxes we use, all that stuff, it adds a lot of comfort for people.
Oh yeah.
And then when it happens that way, now you've told the truth and they're like, oh, this is exactly what he said it would be.
Sure.
Before they even get the product, like the steps to getting the product was exactly what the person said it would be. The company said it would be. And that instills a lot of like trust and future goodwill for their next order and their next order. And I think that's something people just don't do enough of, so you've got this list of reports. How's it going to be delivered? Like explain all that, hey, once you get your thank you email, you're going to open your email. You're going to see 3 emails. You're going to see one that's an invoice, one that's a login, and one that's your bonus download. Subject lines are going to be this, this, and this. Here's what they look like. And if you're using Gmail, here's what they look like.
Sure.
And it sounds like a lot of extra work, and it's extra work, but it's pretty quick. And you could just put it right in the sales letter. But I tell you, the difference it makes as far as people's comfort level is off the charts.
Yeah. And and probably you've lowered, just in that one step alone, you've lowered the amount of, people asking for refunds or, because they're confused by the process, they've gone through it and they're like, this is too confusing and they want their money back or something like that. So
yeah,
if you can eliminate that, or you can add that one step in the process, you're eliminating a lot of, pain down the road, from getting, people that want to charge back, doing chargebacks or things like that. So,
yeah. And if you don't want to write it all out and take screenshots, just do a video walkthrough, use a service like Loom or something, and just, do a quick, 3-minute recording, say, hey, here's when you press order, you're going to fill in your information like this. Right. Here's what the order form looks like. Here's the thank you page. You'll go to your email, blah, blah, blah. Like you just kind of walk them through the process. And then like I said, the coolest thing is when it happens the way you said it happens. So make sure your systems and processes are up to date. Don't change all your back end after you write the sales letter. That's why a video might be good, because it's easy to change out in the copy. It builds so much rapport and trust because it happens exactly the way you said it would happen. We've all ordered something and it didn't happen the way they said it would.
Right.
And we just get frustrated, right? So
absolutely.
So make sure your back end is dialed in, your delivery systems are dialed in if you're going to do that. But if they are, definitely take advantage of that, because hardly anybody does that. Right. Very rare that you see a company that does that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, man, that hour flew by.
Yeah. So that's a wrap. So, again, good stuff, good show. I think we always get a lot of good response back when we talk about, I think in the topic of copywriting, I think we've got a lot of copywriters that listen to our show.
Sounds like it.
And we've had, as evidenced by some of our comments recently, I think I shared some recent comments from you on YouTube. We just got one recently that from one of our listeners or watchers on YouTube that says Persuasion by the Pint is one of my top 3 YouTube channels. So
there you go. Wow.
Thanks for checking us out and listening. And as always, we'll try to continue to have good guests on and do topics like this as often as we can. So,
yeah, absolutely. I met a guy this weekend at a mastermind, or this week at a mastermind. He wants to come on the show and talk a little bit about persuasion and all this stuff too. He owns a marketing agency, so we'll have him on pretty soon. And we might be on his show too. A little reciprocation there. So
I like it. It.
Be fun. All right. Well, that means it's weekend time, right?
Weekend.
All right.
Time for the weekend ahead. Thanks to all of our listeners. Thanks for tuning in. As always, you can find us over at Persuasion by the Pint. You can find us on any of your podcast listening apps or whatever you use to listen to any of your apps, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, any of those platforms. And then also you can find us over at our Facebook group over at persuasionbythepint.com, or I'm sorry, facebook.com/groups/Persuasion by the Pint. And Sean, it's been fun, man. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
All right.